I would just offer an observation to our panel as I begin my question. I come from a multi-generation group of debtors, so understand my perspective as a customer to the financial institutions. In addition to my responsibilities on this committee, though, I also serve as ranking member of the House Science Committee. And for just a moment, let's talk about the issues that impact your customers, the safety and security of their information, and for that matter, their money. On the Science Committee, among other things, we have jurisdiction over a portion of the cybersecurity regulatory regime. And your institutions bear a lot of responsibility for cybersecurity due to the business that you're engaged in. But the regulatory structure for cybersecurity is in many ways just as complex as the financial regulations. The sheer number of agencies involved in the issue is astounding. Just some of them, the White House, OMB, DHS, NIST, FDIC, the Fed, OCC, SEC, CFTC are just some of the federal agencies with cyber security policies applicable to your institutions. And this says nothing of the state-based or international regulations that are also in place for you all to depend on in dealing with your customer base. We can all agree that cybersecurity is of the utmost importance, but I find myself wondering about the cost of implementing this large web of regulations. Could you elaborate further on how you comply with these various cybersecurity rules, since this is critically important to your customers and my fellow citizens?
I think
be brave, Mr. Diamond.
we spend $600 million a year in cyber. All of us spend huge amounts of money to protect privacy, the system. I agree with you. Cyber risk is probably the biggest risk I think the financial system faces in the world. It's a global risk, and you're absolutely correct. All those folks get involved. It makes it very complicated. But a good and happy note, after this meeting, most of us are going over and meeting with a bunch of those agencies and our top security officers to try to get it a little more coordinated so we can do a better job protecting the United States of America.
I think that I'd add to that, in that working with these colleagues plus the broader groups of colleagues in our industry, you'll find that the financial services industry, despite all the things you talked about, has, like many things, just taken upon themselves to drive successful implementation. And so we all spend a lot of money, as Jamie said, but the important thing is we make available through FSARC and FSISAC and the various groups all the information we can glean all the way through the system. So if we find an issue, we make sure everybody in the financial system has it as fast as humanly possible, whether it's big banks, small banks, or everything in between. And that is something I think that we've driven our industry at, irrespective of the numbers of regulators and the amount of different people looking at. We believe it's incumbent upon us to protect ourselves.
Clearly, and the impact not on just your operations, but even my smallest financial institutions in Oklahoma. They stress and strain even more trying to address those issues. And as a society, as we moved away from checks and cash to all the electronic transactions, it is a bit unnerving to the folks. Again, anyone else care to touch on this, how you're trying to address this issue?
What I would add to this is that I do believe that cyber is a clear and present danger to the financial system, and I think that we have to move from an adversarial-based system into one where there's real cooperation between and among the institutions which exist now, but between and among the institutions and regulators.
Congressman, just to give a sense of scale, Morgan Stanley, 5 years ago, we spent approximately $50 million on cybersecurity. This year, we'll be spending in excess of $400 million on it, building so-called fusion centers in Baltimore, in New York, Singapore, and Glasgow, all designed and working hand in fist with the government agencies. This is the single most existential threat to the financial system, in my opinion.
And Congressman, I would close by saying that it's not just the interest of what we do in America to protect America's interests. It's what these institutions also do around the world in terms of cyber, in terms of protecting our American clients' information.
With that, Madam Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you very much.